Right.
And I assume concrete doesn't work.
I don't know. That's a good
sort of
point.
artificial. Yeah, it has to be something from nature.
I think it would not work as well.
So is what you do spiritually and in your practice have a real connection to nature? Obviously, your very first vision had some connection to nature.
For
you were
me
out
personally,
in nature. Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I'm very connected with nature, and the work that I do has that sort of slant or prism, if you will. But every psychic's different. Every psychic has a different connection. I just happen to be particularly connected to nature because of that early experience. And many of my best mystical experiences have occurred while in the out of doors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you just had sort of a knowing that your connection was going to be more through nature. You don't go to psychic school. You don't maybe even necessarily have mentors. Your grandmother might have been a mentor, but you never knew her in that capacity.
I personally did not go to psychic school. They didn't have psychic school.
I don't think there is. I'm sorry if that was a bad joke.
Actually, I'm running a psychic school more or less. You are. Okay. So it's not a bad joke. But, just previous to the 1990s, basically previous to the internet, it was very difficult to go to classes on these things. There were some.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And definitely in Wichita, they had the School of Metaphysics. I think that might even go back to the late 1980s, but that's no longer in existence. So there have been little schools, little places, but they were much less common. I mean, previous to the internet, basically, well, you could go to the organization I am involved in now. You could go 30 miles outside of Salina. They have Sunset Spiritualist Camp. That was a place where you could go if you were lucky to be trained as a psychic, if you could get somebody there to apprentice you or mentor you.
Now, when was that started?
Actually, the camp itself, believe it or not, I think the charter goes back to 1871.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Now, they were not on the site at Wells. They were over at Delphus, if you know where that is, not very far. And I believe that they moved the church and the camp to Wells in 1938 or somewhere around there. But the charter actually goes back, the legal charter, to 1871. I believe they may have been meeting like in the 1850s.
And what were psychics in that era doing?
Well,
with their skills and abilities?
They were mediums, and when we refer to psychic medium, that's actually a specific kind of psychic. That is a psychic who works with spirits, number one, and number two, usually communes with those who have gone on, as in deceased loved ones, humans. And they were very much, to my understanding, historically, they were concentrating on helping people make contact with those ones that they've lost because, of course, there were a lot of wars going on. I mean, if you think about what's happened between 1851, up into the 40s with the two world wars and so forth, there were, many thousands of lives lost. Mm-hmm. And so many people needed that connection with it.
Oh, they did. They needed that for solace, I'm sure.
Yes.
And they found something with the psychic mediums to bring that to them.
And, always questions about love and money and health and maybe even business and career. Those questions are all perennial, too.
And you mentioned all of those topics. Are those the most usual ones, the most frequent ones you have? Love, money?
Well, everybody wants to know about those aspects.
Those are two of your biggies.
I think that's true, but I will tell you, most of the clients that I work with, you might say my niche, are people who have some of that stuff figured out a little bit, and they're really wanting to spiritually evolve. They're really wanting to get their connection to spirit and to the spirit worlds. They might be looking at what is their life purpose, what is their mission here. And yes, relationships are a part of that. Relationships are a part of everything. And of course, money, if we need guidance in that, if my clients need some clarification on that, I'm happy to help them with that. But for a lot of them, that's not the main criteria. They are looking at matters of their heart, if that makes any sense, and their soul. So I really do specialize very specifically in working with people who are concentrating on their spiritual evolution and their growth, opening their own abilities, their creativity, all of those things. Those are the people that I do best with. I'm also very good, though, with people in relationships. Relationships are kind of always been an easy thing for me. So
Well, you've given me some really good questions to take a little break on and come back from our break.
Wonderful.
Especially I want to go more into what you're talking about, the soul and spirituality and opening those venues for people. But we'll take a short break here. This is again Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show, 910 KINA Salinas. Stay tuned.
I think we went 11. How far did we go?
11.
Yeah.
You can take your headphones off until we get a caller. I think I will.
Yeah.
I get warm.
You know, it's really been interesting, though, Cynthia, just even talking to you, because for my sake, I am enjoying what you're having to say. You know,
Right.
I mean, the callers have their own things, and I think that's been a neat little
Well,
experience.
and that adds to the
It does.
experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, when I do the shows where it's just caller after caller, and I do a lot of them, a lot of it depends on the callers, but it can be very repetitive if that's not broken up with some conversation like what we're doing.
Yeah, it's the
That
same
helps.
old, you know, am I going to have a relationship? Am I going to make some money? You
Well, and
know,
it just
or-
kind of depends. You know,
Yeah.
I did a show this week in Wichita, and a radio show, and these are usually live, not pre-recorded like we're doing.
Yes.
Although
right.
we do the readings in between the songs, and they play them back. So the readings
Mm-hmm.
are technically pre-recorded, but still they're done live. And they just cut them off if they're too long or whatever. And it was a really great show. We had a lot of good callers, and by good I mean, you know, it's radio. They need to be entertaining. They need to be. They need to speak up, not mumble, and listen, and also respond. But sometimes I go in there to do that show, and it's like pulling teeth out of the callers just to get any good callers. So,
Oh.
and they say they have that happen
Yeah,
too, on,
yeah.
you know, with other guests. so.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm definitely sure.
I mean, we never have a shortage of callers, but, you know, we don't always have, we can have a
Quality.
shortage, yes, a
Yeah.
shortage of good quality callers. And
Yeah. Well, I want to get back up, and we've got 6 minutes this time, Paul.
Can we just do a 9-minute segment and that'll be it? Or?
No.
Okay. Whatever you want to do. I'm
No,
doing the
it's
math
just,
over
no,
here.
I know I am
so-
too, but it's just relative to the ad breaks.
Okay, 6 minutes.
Because 6 and 5, that's going to, wait, is that going to take us to 45? No, it's not. Am I doing my math wrong? We need
Yes,
to
you
do
are.
45. Okay, tell me what we need.
We
First
can
one
do
was
5
how-
and 4.
Okay,
We only have 9 minutes if we don't want to cut.
okay, I gotcha. Thank you very much for helping me with that. That's why you're here. So we'll go back to do 5. I really want to get into this whole soul, spiritual movement, creativity. It's just obviously it's an interest of mine.
And can you do me a favor at the end of the show? Will you mention my website if they want to know more? Actually, that's doing you a favor, because when you play the live show, of course, those that hear it might be like, oh, I didn't get to call in. How do I get a hold? So that will keep you guys from having to use your resources answering those calls. So I would suggest that you do
That's
that.
a great idea. And it was
Because I have had radio stations like kind of overwhelmed. You know, they're like, oh, we had to take all that. I'm like, well, okay.
What was it again?
It's just CynthiaKillian.com, CynthiaKillion. Or they can probably type in Wichita Psychic and get me. But, you know, that way you guys don't have to deal
Okay,
with that
that's
and
a great
be
idea.
overwrought with that. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know, there might only be 1 or 2, but believe me, they can be very persistent.
Yeah, it's like, give me a hold of her, get in touch with her. Is that kind of what they do? Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you know, a lot of times the studio people are like, well, we don't know if we can give out our phone number and all that. And really, I would just, you know, prefer that they just go through the website and get the information. And
Yes.
that's
Right. Yeah,
so
you
much,
wanted to go
for
to the
obvious
website.
reasons we've already talked about.
Absolutely.
So,
Right.
you know.
Well, we'll do 2
Actually-
more segments. Go ahead, Joe.
You want to
Oh.
do 6 and then 5? Actually, I did my math wrong, I think.
We need 45 total, so where are we, 6 and a 5?
We have
But that's not
33,
45.
30.
Okay, 6 and a 5. Okay? Guess be 45 total. Okay, 6 and a 5. Let's go back. And I'll leave this off for now until we get
If we get a call.
a sign coming up. So,
Okay.
okay, we're on segment 3.
A big thanks to my listeners for staying tuned in to the Joan Jerkovich Show here on 910 KINA. We're back again with our psychic, Cynthia Killian. And from some of the talk we had before we went to break here, I wanted to talk some more to Cynthia about because I saw her sort of light up. I saw her sort of show me a little piece, just non-verbally here, of her passion for what she does, which I think is taking them deeper into their own spirituality, creativity. Talk to us about that.
I really like to help people connect with their souls. And basically, what I tell new clients when they ask me, what can you do for me? There's only two things really that I can do. Number one, I can help you connect with the spirit world. And I do want to do that because I feel that when we have that awareness of our guides, of our angels, of our passed on loved ones, it helps us to go through the world with greater clarity and confidence. So I can do that. And I can help clients, I can help you connect with you. Because most people nowadays are very rushed and very hurried, and we as a culture, many of us have lost a connection of who we are as individuals. So I really help people connect back with their own spirit as well. That essence that was there before they were born and will be there after they die.
And you're kind of giving us a little glimpse of your beliefs in spirit and living on and the eternal soul, if you want to call it that. So where did that become rooted for you? Or was that something that you've always felt or known?
I've always known it, as long as I can remember. That's never been a question in my mind. When you have perceptions of spirits, when you see energies, when you're aware of people who have, quote unquote, died, but then they're not dead to you, then you don't question that.
And can you describe for us what that's like? Is it sometimes visual? Is it something you feel? Or how?
It can come in all different ways. It's very difficult to describe for me. It can be visual, although I will tell you, when my own mother passed, I said, you know what? I don't want to see you. That is just too much. I will freak me out. So if you want to communicate, there can be other ways. And she certainly did. I went into her old bedroom, and she had all these, she liked to go to yard sales. And you know how sometimes you go to yard sales, you get a lot of junk. But she had those old velvet paintings with the bullfighters. Yes. You know what I'm talking about?
Or an old velvet Elvis.
She's probably going to slap me from the other side for saying the story, but it's absolutely
true. Hope she doesn't show up here in the studio.
Well, hopefully not.
Never know.
She had all these old velvet paintings on her wall and some old candlesticks that you mounted to the wall, or candlestick holders. And anyway, I'd gone on, and somebody who she was very displeased with had visited the house. And this was shortly after her death, and I went into her bedroom because we hadn't cleared out yet. And, actually, first my boyfriend at the time went into the bedroom. I went in later. But he called me at work that day, and he said, I don't know what's going on, but everything on the walls is turned sideways.
Oh, my goodness.
And he, although he was a believer, he just didn't have the range of experience that I did. He was very freaked out. He was at the house alone. And, I thought, what are you talking about? It's turned sideways. Well, I go in there, and literally everything on the wall was tilted to the right. Mm-hmm. And I know that was because that person whom she was angry with had visited the house, and she still was not at peace at that time. Now, later on, her spirit did come at peace. And that's one of the things that I might do sometimes is work in a situation if the spirit is not at peace, bringing through communications that can help them get at peace. It's not my favorite kind of work, but it is very rewarding. It's just kind of dangerous sometimes, or scary, depending on how not at peace they are. So,
because this is actual work, not so much with a person who's here, but with the spirit.
Yes.
Who's and this takes us to, we're going to, even after your show airs the following Saturday, go into some stories about hauntings. Yes. Is that something of where that comes into play? A disturbed spirit can't go off and find their peace in the other world? Or?
Absolutely, that can be the case. And there are many documented episodes of that. I really don't even need to go on and on, because we all have read them, we've seen them on TV, and many people have personally experienced that. I will say that in my experience as a psychic, the overwhelming majority of my experiences with the spirit world are quite blissful, they are quite positive, and mainly the spirits are wanting to reach out with a message of love and encouragement to those of us who are still here, because we're still seeing with very limited vision. We are blind spiritually, and they can help us open our eyes. And I guess that's what I try to do with my clients too, is bring that vision to them.
Right, and help them maybe bring some of that piece of the openness, the vision, the
Yes.
peacefulness that we think of, but here you even had this experience where you could tell your mother's own spirit was a little